From voting rights to police brutality to economic fairness and equality, it seems as if Black America is under attack. With legislative gridlock slowing any chance of real progress, what is the path forward when it comes to the state of Black America? Joining us to discuss in the Real Times National Newsmaker Spotlight, the National President of the NAACP, Mr. Derrick Johnson. Mr. President, always a pleasure to see you. Good to see you today.
Good to be here.
Let's get right to it. We're waking up this morning, breaking news in Indianapolis, another mass shooting. I mean, when is enough enough? In Black America, we know about gun violence, but it only seems to draw the big headlines when it's mass shootings, large numbers of people, and it keeps happening again. It's like we're normalizing it.
You know, unfortunately, the general public all agree with measures to control the proliferation of guns. Unfortunately, the gun lobby have a stronghold on the conservative movement, particularly Republicans. And as a result, we're going to continue to see this ongoing issue play out. We thought after what took place in Connecticut with elementary age kids who were white kids, that was the straw to break the back. But unfortunately, we are still in this perpetual, unfortunate and reoccurring scene of individuals being killed because we refuse to address this public policy urgent need.
Yeah, it's frightening and frustrating at the same time. All eyes of the nation and the world actually glued to Minneapolis. We just had another shooting there. The George Floyd trial has wrapped. We're waiting for a verdict. Are you optimistic that there will be justice first for the Floyd family and then justice for Black America as we continue to move forward and reimagine the way we police African-American communities?
First of all, I want to commend Police Chief Arredondo for standing up with some integrity to represent the truth of what took place to George Floyd, the truth of which we all witnessed with our own eyes, and to see members of the Minneapolis police force all line up to say, this is not how we train our officers, this was inappropriate, and in essence to say, Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. So I'm optimistic to see that blue wall that will protect bad actors to come down in this case. And we need to continue to push for a more transparent and accountable law enforcement agencies so we can get police officers who respect our community, come from our community, and protect and serve our community and not prey and murder members in our community.
Yeah, we're seeing it reach into the brown community as well. Chicago on edge right now, Mayor Lightfoot asking for calm. I mean, and then we saw a military officer in Columbia, South Carolina, accosting a neighbor because he felt like he was in the wrong neighborhood. So our tax dollars are not only being used to brutalize us, because our tax dollars are what paid the salaries of police officers and military officers and soldiers. It doesn't get much worse than this.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail. Our tax dollars. We are owners of government. We shouldn't be victims of government. So we must demand more from our ownership, our tax dollars, to ensure those who are sworn to protect and serve are not preying on us. Unfortunately, I would recommend no one to watch that video of that 13-year-old child being murdered in Chicago. Not even was a child, and there was no justification. And the fact that the police officers lied, they lied. How many people have been harmed and killed as a result of police lying? We have to transition how police officers are able to stand up in these type moments, and we must prevent the murdering of children by law enforcement officers. Is not acceptable. And to consider what happened in Virginia, someone who has enlisted to serve and protect this nation have to go, to such extremes as the video, and he's in full uniform, and there was no justifiable reason to be pulled over. And even if he didn't have a license plate, there is no justification for the type of harm that he was placed in. Thank God he had the sense to do a couple of things. One, drive to a well-lit area.
Right.
Two, keep his hands out the window so there could be no rationale that he posed a threat. And three, remain calm through the whole ordeal. Even though he was pepper sprayed, he remained calm. That's no way to live. No way to live.
None whatsoever. And I think even more disturbing about that case, Mr. President, was the fact that they've had that video. The police officers have had that video, the officials there, since December. And no action was taken until the video went viral. And America said, no, we're not going to stand for this. I mean, they can't be trusted to police themselves. So at what point do our federal lawmakers and the federal government step in and say, okay, you guys are having trouble doing this, we're going to help you out?
You know, it's in the hand of the US Senate right now. The House did their part. We must do away with qualified immunity. As long as no one is held liable for these acts, then these acts will continue to take place. Two, we need to create a database of police misconduct that's a federal registry. You know, that officer who was terminated in Virginia, he can very well go to another agency as if nothing happened and begin to police those streets. How much more harm would he bring on citizens and residents of any area if he's allowed to go to another agency? Those are some key components we must do on a federal level. On the local level, New York did the right thing. They did away with qualified immunity. We need more agencies willing to stand up and say we want a heightened sense of accountability to communities. No one's shield should be a shield to accountability. A badge should not be one shield to accountability.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about COVID now, because it's still raging. Michigan, the numbers are off the charts. We're seeing more and more states eliminate the mask mandate. We know what the path back is, but for some reason, we can't seem to adhere to the recommendations. And again, the African-American community suffers because this plague has hit us like no other community.
Over 560,000 people have died. I've been fully vaccinated. I've gotten both of my shots. It is really important for people to adhere to the recommendations. Whether you get a shot or not, we must remain socially distanced. We must wear masks and understand the options of getting a shot. You know, I grew up in Detroit, and I know far too many individuals who have been harmed as a result of COVID, whether they have been sick and they have the lingering effects or they have died. It is unfortunate because so much of this is preventable, but it only can be prevented as individuals truly take personal responsibility as we find our way out of this moment of a global pandemic.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we let you go, we have to talk about these voting laws and restrictive measures taken here in Georgia and now spreading across the country. What is the remedy for us here in Georgia and the rest of the country? Is the federal government and the Department of Justice our only hope?
Well, first of all, we have to, the Senate must approve, the House have already done it. HR 1, it is Senate R1, to make sure that there's a federal standard to prevent states like Georgia and Texas, and Michigan is now considering some of these draconian voting laws. This is about vote suppression. Elected officials should not be positioned to select who their voters are. It is the responsibility of voters to select who the elected officials should be. And we are in a moment that we've seen before, whether it was after 1876 or that period leading up to 1965. The African-American community, it is absolutely key. We continue to raise our voices with corporate America to hold them accountable, not to let this happen. Tax credits and other governmental allowances should not mute corporate voices around democracy. If we can send troops around the globe to fight for democracies, corporations and citizens must fight for democracy right here in the 50 states.
Right. I think that was the frustrating part, seeing Delta, Home Depot, Coca-Cola silent up until the law is passed and then come out with these half-hearted statements. It's extremely frustrating. Of course, Delta, one of the largest employer in the state of Georgia.
You know, many of these corporations' budgets are larger than the state budgets. We should not sit back and allow them to be held hostage by a few small-minded individuals who are terrified that their policy recommendations is not appealing to voters.
Right.
You don't shrink the size of the electorate because you have not been agile enough to attract more voters. You need to be more agile in your platform to attract more voters. So this can be a true representative democracy.
Absolutely. And before we let you go, let's talk about economic justice. African Americans, about 1/10 the worth of white America right now. The rich got richer during the whole COVID pandemic epidemic, and the poor got poorer. What is the path forward when it comes to helping African Americans become a part of a vibrant economy? We've actually seen a dollar figure. It cost America trillions because of its racial practices and suppression of African Americans. And a vibrant economy is not just good. A vibrant Black America is not just good for Black America. It's good for all of America. That's what that study found. What is the path forward?
You know, we have been huge advocates to cancel student debt. Why? Because it's a multiplier effect. If you address the issue of the largest employer in African American community, which is government, there is a mechanism to do away with student debt for those individuals who are employed by federal, state, or local government, including school districts, which then open them up to qualify to purchase homes and other large purchases so they can build wealth. The accelerator for wealth in this country is property and home ownership. What's preventing African Americans from buying housing stock that's of quality is credit reports. Their credit reports are being saddled by student loan debt. The multiplier effect then goes to more people purchasing home, more activity around the housing market for renovations and all types of stuff. We advocate for student loan cancellation. And there are three very clear streams. One was moving through the city right now, championed by Elizabeth Ward, canceling the first 50,000. We completely support it. Two, executive order dealing with particularly those student loans that was taken out for as a result of for-profit colleges that were predatory in nature, and individuals would never be able to capture what they paid for in those student loans because they receive certificates and degrees that are not marketable. And then three, revision in the public service student loan program, which would impact African American in a positive way so that we can get into the marketplace and build wealth through property and home ownership.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are answers and solutions for all these problems. We've just got to find the right group of people that are motivated enough to tackle them head on and move us forward as a country and as a community.
Absolutely.
Mr. President, thanks so much for joining us on the Real Times National Newsmaker Spotlight. We certainly appreciate your time and wish you the best going forward, and thank you for your leadership.
No, thank you for the opportunity. Take care.